one the paragraph in particular, he makes the comment, says, the Crown solemnly undertook to act in the best interest of the injured veterans upon their return from battle, even if it means putting veterans' interests before those of the Crown and its citizens. He's not talking about equality. Inequality, if that is required. We have a duty to serve the veterans, and if that means they have to come first over the interests of the nation or the interests of the remaining civilians, be it. He says, as the judge speaking, that makes sense. When one considers that it is the Canadian Forces members and veterans who fought and in many cases died and continue to fight and die for the freedom of all Canadians and their fundamental principles that all Canadian citizens treasure. So when you read this and you're about a third of the decision of the justice, you get a sense where he's going with it. He specifically addressed the fiduciary duty in these terms. The specific fiduciary duty that the plaintiffs seek, plaintiff is the veterans, seek to establish is not about the legislation of a benefit in service scheme for armed forces members and veterans. In other words, that's not what we're after. We're not trying to nickel-dime Canadian or Parliament. We're looking for something better, grander, something more fundamental, something that goes to the essence of it. Justice says, rather, it encompasses an overarching obligation on the part of the Crown to keep the promises it made to them. In return for their services and sacrifices, the government should ensure that they and their dependents receive adequate services, assistance, and compensation should they become injured or die. What he's saying is we'll wipe the blackboard clean and we'll start over again if we need to. We need to go back to square one. What is it that we need to do? Maybe the current legislation does it, maybe it needs to be amplified, augmented, amended, whatever. But that's not the essence. We're not going to get into a pissing contest as to what section so-and-so said. We're going to go back to the basic. Are we providing support, sustenance, assistance to our veterans? Justice, and that's my last quotation, says the plaintiff case is that they are being denied a benefit that is available to other injured Canadians. Namely, the availability of adequate compensation for their work-related injuries. I think he's bang on. They acknowledge, the plaintiff, that the courts have not yet recognized employment status as analogous to the enumerated grounds under, and he's quoting the Charter, and that's where he's going next. He makes the point that there is an arguable case that their status as Canadian Forces members and veterans is analogous ground, and that the Charter creates, in fact, an adverse distinction based on their status. We're penalizing you, and it's enshrined in legislation. So many ways, that's what he says. It's going to require, as I said, a major shift for at least two superior court levels at the appeal and the Supreme Court to recognize and to come to grip with this. By the time we have a decision from the Supreme Court, it would be my guess I would be retired, so most of you would be. Because a lot of inks would be passed and would be used, and a lot of arguments will be done. Fundamentally, and my assessment of it, it's a good thing. It's a good thing because it will energize a debate among Canadians within the Canadian society. I don't think any of us, and I don't mean disrespectfully here, but can expect the legislature to do it all. Because the Canadian nation has to make some sacrifices, has to recognize that some additional resources need to be committed to the support of veterans. Sean has alluded to Australia. There's more to say about Australia, how much they spend on a yearly basis for veteran support, much more proportion Canada does. That's the kind of society debate that we will have. It may never come to pass. We may never have a new charter We may never have a decision by the Supreme Court, maybe there'll be some settlement along the way. But I think it needs to be done. Part of me regrets that the debate has now taken a very legal turn, and it's expensive, it's long, and you never quite know where this is going to go. But most of the arguments, and more again than I would ever have imagined, have been put on the table in a very eloquent and articulated fashion, and jurists will have to look at them and receive evidence on that in the years, months and years to come. But in the meanwhile, I think we together with the public, through the media, through parliaments, we need, if we do nothing else, to recognise at the moment we can and we must do better. How much better, time will tell. But the statu quo is not an option, and this is what this decision says to me in the most minimalist terms possible. Thank you.